Good evening, everybody, and back from a well-deserved vacation that I took. Um, this is our 79th episode, and I have the privilege um, of Professor Brian S. Peskin with us again for a second visit, and he has pretty incredible information, which I think is going to uh, blow a lot of your circuits. Traditional medicine, they always do the rope a dope when it comes to treating a disease process. They're always treating the symptom and not the underlying cause. So that's really frustrating, especially when you know the answers. So anyway, Doctor or Professor Pez, I keep calling you doctor, but Professor, I know you have great credentials, and you have a great product or products now,
Yeah.
and we'd like to share this information with our audience because I know in the past you told me that the organic cold pressed omega-6 oils are effective against COVID. It helps boost the immune
Any
system.
lipid envelope virus, of which COVID is,
Yeah,
very effective. Before we had vaccines, people didn't die of viruses. They got the flu, they probably got sick, but they survived fine. So
exactly.
we have an innate, just like you said in the introduction, method of protection for us. And as long as your immune system is working properly, we're in pretty good shape.
And your oils are missing. I mean, you can go to a five-star restaurant and spend $500 for a dinner, and you're getting the junkiest oils out on the marketplace. It's just
Problem with that is you're absolutely correct because the restaurateurs don't know. And what everybody needs to know is we have something called a bilipid membrane layer in every one of your 100 trillion cells. And half is fat, half is protein. There's virtually no carbohydrate in there because carbs are non essential. Your body makes them. And out of that 50% fat portion, 25 to 33% are supposed to be fully functional, what I term PEOs, for parent essential oil. Now, these are two oils, parent omega 3, parent omega 6, body can't make. So if it doesn't get them in a very bioavailable, bioactive state, you have 100 trillion cells that have a problem. And what I specialize in is compensating for cellular deficiency of these oils. And now, in particular, one metabolic pathway, it's technically named the delta 6 desaturase pathway. It's at the top of the chain. There's many underneath it. So if the top one is impaired and not fully functional, all the other ones are. But the top one by itself leads directly to what's called prostaglandin series 1, which is the body's most powerful anti-inflammatory. So anybody that has autoimmune diseases, and there's many of them, the body is in chronic inflammation mode all the time. This pathway is going rampant. It's not putting the brake on it and going, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be sneezing all the time with pollen or grass outside like I used to 20 years ago before I discovered this science. And I didn't discover the science, but it's hidden and it's not publicized. For example, everybody is telling you omega 6 oils are bad. They're bad if they're adulterated and processed, which, Doc, is exactly what you were saying in the restaurants. Why are they processed? To get long shelf life. So I understand that. The problem is with the processed oils, you have 100 trillion cells that aren't working, and you have numerous metabolic pathways that aren't fully functional. So that's what I specialize in. Once we get the inflammation down, and I think we're going to talk a lot about today's COPD and asthma, which are the respiratory problems. There's 16 million Americans, a lot that have these issues, and pharmaceutical companies are pretty much out of tricks. We specialize in accentuating and maximizing pathways. Big pharma charter is to block and impede cholesterol reductase inhibitors, beta blockers. So how do you increase cellular functionality by impeding anything? You don't. Now, in fairness to them, they've done a spectacular job with impeding pathways temporarily, like with steroids, but no physician would say to a patient, you want to be on steroids the rest of your life. For example, steroids shut down all metabolic EFA pathways. So I specialize in compensating for the delta 6 desaturase and maximizing PGE1. And I give you a personal example. I was at the auto shop 2 days ago, Tuesday in the morning, and I'm looking at my car because the air struts went. So the bumper, the front bumper hit the ground, got all scraped up, and they were taking pictures of it. So I'm backing up to give them more light. A car is coming off the ramp from an alignment, goes over my ankle. So I look at the left side of it, not too bad, okay. Try and get on the foot a little bit. I'm on the ground, of course. Well, this hurts a little, but I'd expect inflammation. Then I take a look at the right side, and it's about 10 times bigger. So it's get me the ambulance. Turns out I have 2 bones broken. They are going to do surgery to put some screws in there. But it's Thursday. It's 2.5 days later. The natural inflammation is already subsiding, the acute inflammation, which is what you want. If I take a knife and cut myself, I want inflammation. It tells the body, send everything to stop this and heal and give me pain so I don't touch it. So you want acute inflammation, which is very short term. The problem with us today is, because we're eating all these adulterated oils, is chronic inflammation, where that inflammation never goes away. So my foot is unbelievable. I would be in absolute agony. And even in the ambulance, my blood pressure was 130/90, 120/80 is textbook. So they were in absolute awe, because when you have any kind of problem like this, your blood pressure shoots up through the roof to give you blood everywhere with the nutrients and the oxygen to get that healing going. That's why the blood pressure goes up. But I didn't even need it. The doctor's pressing on it to put it in a cast for about 2 minutes. Goes, Brian, this is going to be agonizing. I'm going to give you an opioid. I said, I don't need it. I'm taking the world's biggest anti-inflammatory I invented. Looks at me like I'm nuts, because they don't know. They only know regular drugs, right? So yeah, sure. I say, look, I'll take half your dose. Take half the dose. I said, I want it very short acting. Presses like heck. He goes, how's this feel? I said, not bad. He goes, you're the first patient. This is an orthopedic guy. You're the first patient I've ever had where it's causing me more pain to press it than you are in experiencing it. So again, you get inflammation. So I have inflammation with a cast. So of course it's going to hurt, because your body is expanding tissue. And now the cast is saying, you're not going anywhere, buddy. So, almost no sleep for 2 days, because you move on it. It does feel the pain. But even with no sleep, I could still work the very next day. How do I look now? I don't look bad, do I?
No, you look like nothing happened.
If I wasn't taking Easy Correct, that we'll talk about, and
Yeah.
the results we're getting with COPD and asthma patients, and I hope you'll let me read a couple, because they're absolutely unbelievable.
How does the inflammation relate to COPD?
Inflammation is everywhere with COPD. And I can read a little bit for you out of a medical journal article. Convincing evidence, asthma, COPD management, biomarkers of eosinophilic airway inflammation, neutrophilic inflammation, the presence of airway inflammation with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, biological agents targeting specific inflammatory pathways. This approach has been strikingly effective in patients with other chronic inflammatory diseases, such as rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, and asthma. However, there are important and unresolved challenges in COPD, including our incomplete understanding of the lower airway inflammatory response. As a result, progress has been slow, many failures. Systemic inflammation might be present, could play a role in these patients. Eosinophilic airway inflammation is widely recognized in patients with asthma, and cellular and cytokine pathways are well understood. So the word inflammation must be there 10 times. There's no other word. And our number one effect is to decrease it. So we've got 2 off of oxygen totally, and they have been on oxygen for years. Also, the capillaries are in the structure of the lung. It's called the alveoli. So you have air sacs. That's where the oxygen transfer takes place, and you have capillaries between them. So what is a capillary made up of? I basically do theoretical physiology. Everybody else does biochemistry. The biochemistry always assumes you're starting with the right stuff. Well, we just said you're starting with an adulterated oil. You're starting with the wrong stuff. So the answer is not in biochemistry. It's in physiology. Why is the tissue not working? So, for example, the capillary is 100% parent omega-6. That's the number one ingredient in Easy Trek. And it goes on and on. All the organs are coated with an exterior membrane. It's called epithelial tissue. It's exactly like your skin. They give it a big name. Endothelial tissue is the inner lining of the arteries. It's the same darn thing. I went to MIT because it's easy to spell, MIT. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I never say that. I went to MIT. It's real simple. I'm not big on memorizing big words. I'm very big on understanding what those words mean. And most in the medical profession, it's flipped because your whole day is spent memorizing terms. I'd rather not know the terms, but have the understanding of what those terms mean. So it goes on and on and on with the physiology. Another one is energy. All of your energy for cellular healing is in the mitochondria. Okay, big deal. It is a big deal because the inner layer of the mitochondria is made of what's called cardiolipin. Cardiolipin is exclusively parent omega-6. So if you're not getting a big amount relatively of parent omega-6 to overpower the adulterated omega-6 in all the fast food, in all the cooking oils, in all the processed food, in all the bagels and pizzas and everything you eat, and even in the high-end restaurants, never mind the fast food restaurants, they process this oil, and it's a trans fat, an intraesterified fat. The terms don't matter. All you care about is, unless you're getting an organic oil, cold pressed by itself isn't even sufficient. If it's not organic, which means it is not chemically altered, you are not getting what nature intended us to get. Now, we also have in there parent omega-3. You do need some of that, and a little bit of DHA because it makes the PGE1 output even more. Because this Easy Trek formulation is specifically designed for people that have an impaired pathway. And there's about 9 major diseases that in the medical literature have this impaired pathway. And doctors all over the place go, Brian, you're just like everybody else. It cures everything. It solves everything. It's a fountain of youth. I said, no, I picked the golden goose pathway that is tied to everything. You know that inflammation is tied to virtually everything, right? It's
Sure.
inflammation, even including cancer. That's all changed. It's not genetic. That went out in 2008, but nobody's seen it. They basically say it is a wound that doesn't heal. And we looked at healing diabetic foot ulcers that are horrendous, and the healing was just unbelievable. And the results we're getting in COPD is just amazing. Can I read one of them?
Sure. Testimonial. Yeah.
I think your listeners will be amazed. Patient number 1, January 2022, this year. Quote, and these are all medically physician endorsed. I was diagnosed with COPD over 10 years ago. Mine's from lupus and chronic bronchitis. I'm stage 2. Also have a history of pneumonia over the years. Been taking albuterol for 10 years now. That's a steroid, Symbicort, prednisone, steroid. Doses go up when I'm having flares. Over the past few months, I've struggled with shortness of breath, wheezing, coughing. Started with Easy Trek, and within 1 hour, I could feel my lungs opening. Over the first week, I could feel myself able to take a deeper breath and expand my lungs. Over the past 2+ weeks, I've reduced my prednisone from 10 milligrams to 2.5 a day. I'm no longer using albuterol, still doing Symbicort, more energy, able to walk without being winded. My blood pressure is normal now, and pain has reduced completely. Here's another one, May 2022. This is the brother of an MD. The MD writes, my brother, 64 years old, afflicted with COPD past 10 years. Oxygen supplementation for the past 7 years, 24/7. Stage 4 COPD, 4 to 5 liters per minute of O2. Fairly short of breath after taking a few steps. Scarring, which is fibrosis. Verified by CT, waiting for a drug for a lung transplant, which he doesn't want because he'll be on immunosuppressive drugs the rest of his life. Starting taking Easy Trek 6 weeks earlier, I could tell you he's definitely feeling better. Still uses his oxygen, but his moaning and crowning is much less, and his labor breathing has improved after taking a few steps to the bathroom. Here's the last one. Another patient, fibrosis, which is scarring, which means it's pretty bad. February 2022. This is brand new product. 54-year-old female, smoking less than a pack a day, 20 years. Diagnosed COPD 3 years ago, on several medications. History of COVID, which caused damage to the lungs. Pneumothorax with collapsed lungs required hospitalization. CT showed significant scarring. Pulmonologist was guarded on any improvement, stating, quote, your case is grim. Labored breathing, 24-hour oxygen. February 28, she saw a pulmonologist, CT, PFT evaluation of the lungs, showed positive changes. She was taking Easy Trek for 1 month. Pulmonologist was pleasantly surprised. No longer requires oxygen, can now speak and move about without being winded. Nothing else changed other than adding Easy Trek. So getting these kind of results this way is so gratifying.
Yeah, just a couple little tidbits there. Unfortunately, as you well know, most of the physicians think the omega-3 is more important than the omega-6, which is totally reversed because in your book, the PEO solution, which I recommend very highly to anybody that really wants to get the inside track on the physiology of what's going on, you quote from the scientific literature, not the fluff from the New England Journal of Medicine, but the real science that shows the skin has 1,001 ratio of 6:3. The nervous system has 101 ratio of 6:3. And the organs are about 4.5 to 1. How the hell can omega-3 be more important than omega-6? Plus, the idiots are prescribing fish oil.
How wrong they are.
Right.
They're taking people that have had strokes, and their big breakthrough idea is, well, let's inject them with fish oil, DHA and EPA. They're out of their mind. It's going to cause inflammation because what people need to know with massive doses of fish oil, it becomes rancid at room temperature. I've never seen this published in a regular journal or article that people read. Obviously, it's in the medical journals because I saw it, but popular publications never ever say this. This is why fish smells so badly in the supermarket, and they're spraying it with peroxide and all kinds of stuff so you don't smell that, but it's oxidizing, it's going rancid. But the minute this hits you, it goes rancid. The other thing I've never seen is my first thing is I'm an engineer by training. How much fish oil DHA does the brain use a day? They're always saying it's loaded with DHA. Fine, it's there. I'll give you that. Turns out it's 14%, but the omega-6 side is 10%. So to somebody like me, 10 versus 14 is a 40% difference. It's the same, what we call order of magnitude. An order of magnitude is a factor of 10. That gets my attention. This is 0.4 verse 10 or 4, 0.4, that's 40% verse 10. So it's a huge nothing. 7.2 milligrams a day is what the brain uses. And if you look at a fish oil capsule, it's 1,000 milligrams, it'll be 600 milligrams of DHA. Now 600 divided by 7 is 80. So you're getting a pharmacologic overdose. It's called super pharmacologic overdose by a factor of 80. To put that in perspective, it'd be 2 aspirin, you got a headache, try taking 80. Please don't do that. I'm being facetious. I'm joking. You'll die if you do that. But this is what they're telling people to do on a daily basis without any physiologic understanding whatsoever. Now, a little of it, the way we use it, it's a very small amount, can make that PGE1 output even more. It's a great trick, but you really need to know what you're doing to be able to utilize it. In the doses they're giving, it's actually a huge negative, like you just said. So anybody taking fish oil supplements, please stop. You are doing enormous long-term damage. You may get a short-term effect, because if you're short on parent omega-3, you'll also be short on the derivatives. Derivative comes from the parents. The body makes them. You may have an impairment like in the delta-6 desaturase, but it's not shut down to zero. If it was shut down to zero, we'd all be dead. But the thing is, anybody that has chronic inflammation, doc, you can't be down 20%. You'll never recover. It'll stay inflamed 24 hours a day. And I want to give you every percentage point I can. And that's why I'm so excited and so passionate about what we can finally bring people. And I don't want anybody believing me. I just want people listening going, wow, I'm hearing some science. I'm hearing numbers I haven't heard before. This guy's different. There may be something really here. And there is here, but these people aren't paid for testimonials. We don't do that. And they're just delighted to share this because they want to help people. But fish oil is a poison in and of itself.
Yeah.
Man-made food. And if you think about what is it, it's antifreeze for a fish. Fish is living in 35-degree water. I throw you in it, you're going to die. It's called hypothermia. So to have fluid blood in a fish, I can have alcohol, but I'd also have a drunk fish. Or I have long-chain fatty acids, which is the category of these oils. But we're not living in that. We're 98.6. These oils go rancid spontaneously at 72 degrees, never mind completely rampant at 98.6. This is leading to the epidemic of skin cancer. So if I have my skin that's supposed to have no fish oil in it, and I'm loading up on fish oil from what the healthcare professional is telling me, because he doesn't know what he's talking about, gets in the skin, now I have an intense beam of light on an area of the skin that has this stuff in it that shouldn't be in it. Skin cancer. And the dermatologists don't know what to do. We're doing it to ourselves. You're supposed to be out in the sun. I've got 2 cats. They sit on a pot of plants where the sun is. So my joke is the cat is smarter than the people. You want the sun. If the sun burns you after 10 minutes or you get a headache, like it used to do with me before I discovered this 25 years ago, that's the body saying you don't have the right oil structure in your skin. Get out of the sun. But you're supposed to be in the sun because that is the way your natural cholesterol is made. It hits the sun, or not made, but vitamin D is made rather. Sorry, the cholesterol in the skin is activated with the sunlight, and that's the vitamin D. Cholesterol, LDL-C, is also the transporter of these PEOs. So when they came up with statins, it was a good first attempt, because what it does is the cholesterol structure's here and the magnetized PEOs are here. So they go together. They just don't float around separately. If I lower the LDL-C, I lower the bad trans fats, like you were alluding to a little while ago. But at the same time, I'm lowering the good stuff. So the answer isn't lower the LDL-C, it is to get more of the good stuff. And by the way, the last part of the topic on cholesterol, there's no sensor for cholesterol in the bloodstream. Well, Brian, that's obvious. It's a genetic defect. You're out of your mind. It's not a defect. The body doesn't care what the number is. In mathematics, it's called a dependent variable. When all the other things are set, like insulin, blood glucose levels are set within 0.1% of each other to 5 millimoles per deciliter, or you're diabetic, calcium, potassium, all kinds of minerals and other substances are regulated very, very tight. pH, 735 to 745, very, very tight bands. If your body cared about it, it would have a sensor. When everything else is what it needs to be, cholesterol is what it is. Bottom line is, people, that number doesn't matter. And that's why you have people.
They're going to kill you. When they lower it below 200, they're literally going to kill you.
Yes, they are. And there's studies that have been done in the elderly above 70, 80, 90 years old. The lower the cholesterol, the lower their life. It's published, but it's buried and they don't want to talk about it and they have no answer why. But the biggest thing with what's called familial hypercholesterolemia, which is elevated LDL-C, like 400 or 500, if it was so bad, why aren't these people dead in a month? They're not. Right. So that leads you to believe there's something more to the story here. And I'm very good at connecting dots. And then I dig and dig and dig. And this is all I do. It's not a side hobby to me. This is all I do. It's a big full-time job. So there's a lot of science. You mentioned my book, PEO Solution. It's very readable. It's in PDF format and book read format. And people need to know the science themselves, Doc, because right now, the average person knows 100 times more about how their car works than about how their body works. They've been misled all over the place. And I spent 5 years at MD Anderson's library, the Jesse Jones Library. They were kind enough to let me be there, even though I wasn't affiliated. And it was, my goodness, the science is over here. And what people are learning is over here. In the popular nutrition books, they're 180 degrees wrong. It's the exact opposite. There was one person at one of the hospitals, the biggest medical center in the world, giving an amount of carbohydrate that you need. And I just told you a little while ago, you don't need any. The equivalent was like 120 teaspoons of sugar. Wow. That 5 millimole I gave you, you know it, but the people listening don't know it. It's 7/10 of a teaspoon. That is the amount of blood sugar in the bloodstream at all times that your body keeps, unless you just ate, of course, then it's going to go up to, it could be triple, could be 5 times, but within 2 hours, unless you're diabetic, it's going to be that 70 to 90 millimoles per deciliter. And this imbecile was encouraging 120 teaspoons of sugar a day. Now, let me tell you what that does. ADHD, you're bouncing off the walls. You drink 2 Cokes, you're bouncing off the walls. An adult, a big adult, never mind a little kid. Then insulin comes out. Textbook of Medical Physiology, the #1 medical textbook in North America, Canada and America, 22 editions. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. Here is the American obesity epidemic in a nutshell. Our government has told us for decades to make carbs #1, and it's destroyed everybody. Human growth hormone goes down, so you have muscle wasting. That's why you get all these poor guys running around that look like girls. The guys look effeminated, and the women are looking like guys. I call it linebacker syndrome. It's, my God, what the hell is happening to your hormones? Because when you're doing these carbs and not getting these oils, there's complete hormonal destruction. So it's just very delighted you're allowing me to explain some of these things, because everybody wants to do the right thing. I've not come across anybody that goes, "Hey, Brian, thanks for this. I don't really give a jam. I just want to be sick, have a heart attack, get cancer, be 350 pounds, and leave me alone." Nobody wants that. It's just one problem after another. And then they're told to do more of the same wrong thing. Or the big one is when the doctor's prescription doesn't work, it's your fault, doc. You're not doing something right. I'm doing what you told me, sir. And here's the results. They have the audacity to blame the patient, and it's sinful. Then the last stage is it's a psychological problem. I'm sure a few of the patients listening have got that one from the physicians too. I asked a couple of people that I was talking to that emailed me. I said, they really said that? Oh, yeah. When they were out of tricks to solve my problem, it has to be psychological.
It's in your head.
Wow.
So let me just share a couple of things with you.
Yeah.
I think you said in one of your lectures, mother's milk has no carbohydrates in it, right?
Very little. And
Very little.
it is loaded with parent omega-6
Right.
because that's what your body wants.
And the other interesting thing is, as you well know, with chronic inflammation, you get fibrosis or scarring. Well, there's a fantastic product called serrapeptase. It's a systemic enzyme that'll literally help to dissolve away the fibrosis in your body.
Excellent.
Yeah, and the Dr. Wong has a product called Zymessence that we use a lot with our patients. It's way more potent because it's pharmaceutical grade, just like your product, pharmaceutical.
Yes.
And it hangs around for 24 to 36 hours, as opposed to vegetarian enzymes, which only hang around 4 to 6 hours. So
Excellent.
forget about worshiping the carrot enzyme or the pepper enzyme. You need animal enzymes.
Yes. Very good. The
So do
patient
you have
is getting misled because most of the time the physician is misled. It's not like they know something and they're not giving that information to the patient. They're doing the same thing. My mother, who's now 92, I was talking about her cardiologist. She goes, "Oh, he just had a heart attack." I said, "Your cardiologist had a heart attack?" "Yeah." I said, "Are you out of your mind? Why are you seeing this guy? He's supposed to be telling you how not to get one." "Well, he's such a real nice guy and his bedside manner is great." I said, "Mom, get a friend. I want someone that's more like me, very matter of fact, cut and dry. I have no bedside manner, but I know what I'm talking about. Get a friend. What the hell are you doing?" I was appalled. Absolutely appalled. This guy was in his 50s.
Well, you know, there's an old saying that when I lecture, most people would rather be killed by a notorious doctor than be healed by a quack.
Good point. Isn't that pathetic?
Do you have a website that our listeners can go to see some of your documentation?
Sure, just my name, brianpeskin.com. That's B as in boy, RIAN, P as in parent, ESKIN. Thank you, .com.
Yeah,
Plenty of information there. If you're interested in a diet book, I have the 24-hour diet. Physicians ask me to write this with a scientific basis. You get with me, what you get is the medical journal article. I give you a life systems engineering science, which is my field of specialty, translation about what it means. But I am one of the very few that give quotes out of that textbook. So you know I'm not making anything up, or I don't understand what I'm saying either. And everything is right on the page. You don't have to go to the end. You don't have to hunt for it in the end notes through 20 pages of junk. You look on the bottom of the page, the footnotes right there. You want to look it up. I've even had physicians want to show me wrong and paid their graduate students to find this guy wrong. In The Hidden Story of Cancer, that was one of my first books on cancer, was based on Otto Warburg's work. Hundreds of references. They couldn't. It was Brian. We couldn't find anything wrong. We were mad. They were boiling because they wanted to, find something wrong and they couldn't.
Now, if we have some professionals out in our listening audience, what website can they download the application so that they can prescribe your EzTrek?
Goodforhealth.org. Everything is there. They're the exclusive distributor of what's called Easy Trek. Easy, Trek, is the medical food. It's not a nutritional supplement. You can't get it on Amazon. You can't get it anywhere except from Good for Health. And the patient has to be under the care of a physician. Physician doesn't have to stock it or anything. There's no forcing there. But a medical food has a very high standard, and you can give an indication for a metabolic pathway like I am. Supplements, you legally can't. They may do it, but it's illegal. And with a medical food, it's legal. But the downside is, and it's not really a downside, it's just harder because you have to show you're under physician care. So the physician just signs a form saying, Jane's under my care, and I've diagnosed her. She has chronic inflammation by the fact she has this particular disease, and it's probably due to an impairment in this pathway. Let's give it a try. And there's no obligation. You know, you can try it. If you don't see a result in 30 days, don't get it anymore. But the energy you get is beyond belief. We have surgeons taking this, doc, and going, I can do another surgery. And I said, I want a percentage of that. Small one, but a percentage, damn it. You're making a lot more money by the. They said, I can actually do another surgery a day. And these are very intense. They're on their feet. They get leg problems by being on their feet day and night, typically PAD, peripheral arterial disease. So these oils really help anything with inflammation.
That's great. So let me see. Jared, do we have any questions from our audience tonight? See, awesome. Thank you. And Brian, okay. Sandy.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, so happy you're back. I miss your educational videos. You look great. Yeah, because I'm rested. I was stressed out before.
Start taking more Easy Trek. Take Easy Trek. You'll be able to do it.
I take it every morning. I take my teaspoon.
Excellent. That's it. That's all it is.
That's it.
You can even do two. We were playing around. I don't like people wasting money and taking more of a supplement than they need. But I've been under mental and physical stress, and especially with being run over with my foot here. So I upped it to two. It's unbelievable. The lack of pain, it was agony in the beginning. It's down literally 3/4 day 2. Day 2, the pain is 3/4. Question is it good for high blood pressure? Outstanding. The whole artery is loaded with parent omega-6, and the inner lining of the artery is exclusively parent omega-6. So the answer is yes. It makes the artery flexible like a balloon. So that lower number, the 80, 120/80, picture you have a straw, Pamela. Blood is flowing through it, and it's not opening because it's not a balloon, it's a straw. That's where the two numbers get real high. They go together. You may be 150/105, for example. But yes, give it 3 months. Your blood pressure should be very much better. Good question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, there's 100 trillion cells in the body, and all the membranes are adulterated and they turn to plastic. So whatever organic cold pressed omega-6 oils and omega-3 you put in your body, it's going to improve it.
Exactly. Getting back to one thing we never do is we don't block and impede pathways. We accentuate, which is very, very difficult to get patents for. So big pharma is the block and impede mode. And again, they've done a wonderful job of knocking down a pathway. For example, if it's inflammatory, the delta-6 is anti-inflammatory. So with all the autoimmune diseases, the anti-inflammatory pathway is deficient, which means you're inflamed all the time. So our approach is very, very different. We also increase oxygenation, cellular blood flow. But here's one. Back to COPD. The wall shared by neighboring alveoli is called the interalveolar septum. Single layer of alveolar epithelial, capillary endothelial cells. All three of those are exclusively parent omega 6. Now, you have a muscle on the outside of the intima. It's called the media. So when the blood pumps out, the muscle's going. That has parent omega 3 in it. So we support that too. There's actually another 5 areas that are supported as a byproduct of compensating for the delta 6 impaired pathway. So we're delighted to give all these other benefits like the skin. Your skin, I'm a guy with a lot of testosterone. You can probably see my beard on this. I didn't shave 2 days because of my leg impairment. I don't want a blade in my hand and cut the heck out of myself. So it's about 2 days worth of beard. My skin is softer than most 20-year-old girls. And they look at me in horror and I go, I got a secret. Fingernails, all epithelial tissue, just like skin. Most women have hill valley ridges and their fingernails are very weak. They're always breaking. 2 months, that's completely gone. Your fingernails won't break anymore. So this is at the same time as highly medical, wonderful beauty effects. Absolutely wonderful.
Well, I can also testify after taking the clinician's preference, the less potent one for 4 months. I went to Mexico about 3.5 years ago. I don't use sunscreen. It was 91 degrees, clear sky, and I didn't burn.
Excellent. I don't use sunscreen either. It's bad news. You're not supposed to be blocking the sun. And the chemicals in there, I think NIH did a study of what's in that stuff. It's loaded with carcinogenic products. The industry wouldn't do it, so they did it on their own and paid for it. I don't think anything's become of it. You know, they're not off the market or anything,
Right.
but there is so much garbage in those products. You got to be out of your mind to use them.
Yeah, the same companies that make the sunscreen also make the chemotherapy.
Oh, vertically integrated. We get a piece
built-in cash flow.
It's really despicable how the system works.
I agree.
It really is. The patient's health is last. It's almost like, hey, you're going to get these 5 drugs, and if you get better, great. And if you don't, too bad.
Right.
Somebody's making a lot of money on you, and better luck next time. My attitude is I'm a capitalist like anybody else. I'm not a socialist. I hate communism, hate socialism, but I expect to get paid on performance. I'm all about performance-based medicine, and that's what you deserve. I don't like people that get paid for failure and actually harming somebody.
Well, the other interesting thing you mentioned that the average physician is 20 years behind the scientific literature, at least minimum.
At least the medical profession is a snail's pace. For example, I can give you a current one: beta amyloid and Alzheimer's. They have been on beta amyloid for 25 years. Now, if you don't know it, beta amyloid's a protein. It's on the outside of all kinds of the nerves and things, but it's an effect of a problem. And all the literature in the past 10 years is saying Alzheimer's is a cardiovascular problem. Can you prove it? Pretty much. You can do autopsies of people that have died, and I've looked at the results. They all have microinfarcts, which is basically, heart attack of the vessels. There's vessel problems. And there's at least 40 million capillaries in the brain. Capillaries are where the oxygen and the nutrient transfer takes place. And what did I tell you before? 100% parent omega 6. If you don't have that, your capillaries are horrific. And this makes total sense. Why would your memory be good if you're not getting the nutrients to the brain and the oxygen that it's supposed to have? It won't be. And we never used to see the types of Alzheimer's and dementia we had. Sure, it was there in the isolated person, but it's like a given today. You hit 80, you're going down the tubes. And it's not meant to be like that. But because everybody is, because they're getting these adulterated oils, and that's the number one problem in America and the world today, it's adulteration of these parent essential oils. It's not on anybody's radar. It's just so frustrating for me that
Well, and
I
then if you add on,
Yeah.
if you add on the statin drugs, which diminish the cholesterol, so your brain can't repair itself and it shrinks. So between that and the adulterated oils, you're guaranteed to have dementia.
Yeah, and I remember when statins were first coming out, people were saying, "Hey, my muscles wasting. I have brain fog. I can't think." And the doctors would go, "You're a mental case."
Right.
Now there's black box warnings all over the place. Gee, the patient wasn't lying to me. Took 15 years for that to even happen with anybody listening to the patient. So I don't think it's going to be quick, but these Alzheimer's thing, a big Alzheimer's drug came out. This is our next billion-dollar drug. They ended up taking off the market because it was worthless. They got the FDA to approve it because all these Alzheimer's groups, bitched and moaned and screamed because there's nothing out there for them. But I'm not big on getting something in the marketplace that doesn't work to give you, quote, hope. This is science, people. Hope is not for science. Hope is for religion or faith or something. But we have science here. And if these companies aren't looking at the science and hoping like heck they're going to get some subpopulation by luck that it statistically shows it works, even when it doesn't, and there's reasons for that. That happens all the time. And in a big study, it fails when they were really confident it was going to work. Happens all the time. Yeah. And we don't get that. We just keep getting better and better results, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah. Jared, do we have any other questions?
I think I saw one. Osteoporosis. Absolutely. If you look at the bone matrix, it's loaded with protein in these oils. Calcium goes on the outside, and they don't look at the bone matrix. Two reasons for that. They can put it on the outside. It's real simple. And I can show your bone, quote, density is increased. Unfortunately, the density is increasing in the wrong place. It's increasing because you have all this calcium on the outside, and the poor patient falls, doc, and it fractures like a piece of glass. Your bone is supposed to bend. My wife, who's taking Easy Trek, she's impaired the way she walks. She had a problem and slipped on some ice and went face forward. I was too far away to do anything. And she got black and blue. Nothing broke. My 92-year-old mom had the same thing in Massachusetts, slipped off a curb in the snow, face forward, black and blue, no concussion, no drugs, no ER overnight. Went home 60 days later, 100% gone. No one could believe it. The ENT was shocked. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Nature is wonderful when you have the right fuel. And I give this example. You have a Ferrari and it's not running right. They're checking the spark plugs. They're checking the engine. They're checking the timing, the fuel injectors. I come along and go, some idiot put diesel fuel in the fuel tank instead of the highest premium gas you can get. Never thought of that. Yeah, some idiot did that. That's what we're doing. We have a human Ferrari.
And it's interesting, if you take, there's a homeopathic remedy called Arnica montana, and if you take it, like 3-4 times a day, within a three or 4 days, all the black and blue will disappear also.
Wow. It's increasing the blood flow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The answer, and also osteoporosis, a lot of people have hypothyroids, and that can cause osteoporosis and low progesterone. So women after menopause, their progesterone goes low. They become estrogen dominant. And with the fluoride in the toothpaste and the water and all the adulterated oils, your thyroid goes south on you. So you're like the guy jumps off the Empire State Building, 12 stories down. He said, so far, so good.
Until he hits the floor. Huh?
That's it. splat. But yeah,
We keep
it's
getting
not
this
just
lead.
yeah,
The big one, and I remember when I first was starting this, 20 years ago, nurse calls me up in Dallas. I have osteoporosis. I said, will you give me a year to do what I say and get another test? She goes, yep. Didn't want the drug, didn't want the meds because they see the side effects of these things. There's pretty bad side effects. It's called adverse conditions, adverse effects. And at the end of the year, she calls, Brian, you were right. I ate more animal based protein, took your oils, bone density started going up. I don't have a problem anymore. And there's no reason to have osteoporosis or
well,
any of these disorders.
yeah,
We're not made to have that.
yeah, these vegetarians, they're short selling their body. And
Yes, they are. You better know what you're doing. It's not easy.
right. So anyway, Sandy, thank you for your questions. If there's no more questions, next week you're going to be, let me see, does the consumption of adulterated oils cause metabolic dysfunction? Absolutely.
Absolutely. You hit it right in the head. And it starts in the cell membrane. So one of the things you get is all the hormones work better. The way to think about it would be, how can something get in and out of a cell membrane if there's plastic there? It can't. So,
Right.
for example, insulin, we get diabetic patients going, I'm better now using less oral or injectable drugs because the insulin seems more effective. Why the heck is that? And I just told you, because a hydrogenated oil is basically a plastic. So it's taking these oils that are supposed to be fluid, letting things go in and out of the cell, going bounce. You're not coming in. What's that called? Insulin resistance. Gets harder and harder to get in the cell. Body goes, I don't know what else to do with you. All I can do is make more. Now you're type 2 going through the roof. Now your pancreas goes, I can't deal with this. Now you're type 1. It conks out on you.
Yeah.
Arthritis and nerves, absolutely. Arthritis is a definite inflammatory condition caused by impaired delta 6 desaturase. So yeah, within 30 days, you should get absolutely significant improvement in a decrease in arthritis, and your nerve function should start going through the roof. If you're nervous, that'll go down. But we have athletes, your eye-hand coordination are incredible. You can see, I'll drop something, I'll be able to catch it now. You drop a pen, boom. You drop something, you just catch it. It is incredible for athletes.
Yeah. It's interesting. I had a patient, he had pain in all the joints of his body, and he was taking NSAID drugs,
Wow.
ibuprofen, all the garbage. And I put him on the clinician's preference. And in 10
clinician's
days,
preference, anybody listening, is not made for a specific metabolic impairment.
right.
It is made to keep your EFA structure good. So basically, if you're not too bad, this will keep you good. But Easy Trek was made, you have a disease or a disorder with the delta 6 impairment, which is chronic inflammation. It was created for that in mind. So if you have that, taking more of the other one, for example, won't do what this does. We tested that.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe someone could take double. Would they get the same result? No. It looks like it's close to the same formulation, but you don't see the ratios on the label. And that is the key. There's about 4 different ratios, and every one has to be within certain parameters. So you get this major effect, and it's designed for that specifically. The clinician's preference is designed to keep you decent, given you're not too bad to begin with.
Yeah, but even though this patient wasn't available at the time, was about a year ago, he had 90% reduction in his pain of his joints just by taking good organic oil. So Elaine, to answer your question, it may appear to be expensive, but it's actually cheaper because you need less to get more.
Yeah, you get enormous bang for the buck, and we have people that can't sleep well. And for the past 2 days, I've gotten 2 hours of sleep. If I've been lucky, because you move, I'm on the foot and it just hurts. So it keeps you up. I'm doing this interview right now on 2 hours of sleep 2 days in a row. And I'm pretty cognizant. I'm not as good as I usually am, of course, but I'm pretty cognizant.
Could have fooled me, Brian.
Thank you. You're too kind.
So the question is astaxanthin a PEO? I don't
Not at
believe
all.
so.
No. Two different classes.
Right.
One's an antioxidant, and one is essential nutrient. It's called an essential fatty acid. I call them parent essential oils, but your body cannot make either of the parent omega 6 or parent omega 3. So if you're only getting them from adulterated food, you are working like a broken down jalopy.
Right.
That's the analogy to where we are. You don't even have a clue what feeling good should be like. And most people just feel like garbage all day long, and that becomes a new norm. And then they go, oh, you're getting older. That's normal. I'm here to tell you it's not normal. No.
I hear when the Republicans take back the Senate and the House, they're going to replace the skull and crossbones on these bad drugs and put a picture of Biden on there instead. Could you explain the difference between linoleic acid and linolenic acid, and are both acceptable to consume, and at what ratio?
Yeah, very, very good question. Linoleic acid is the parent omega 6. Linolenic acid is the parent omega 3. So those are the technical scientific terms. One has 2 double bonds. The linolenic acid has 3. You don't need to know that. All you need to know is you need both. And you need way the heck more parent omega 6 than you do parent omega 3. The ratios in the body, when you do a little algebra, 11-1 in favor of parent omega 6. So anybody telling you we're overdosed on omega 6 is out of their mind. They don't understand what they're talking about. They're missing an adjective called adulterated/non-functional. Everybody's overdosed on adulterated omega 6, and that little adjective tells everything. You'll get people going, oh, Seventh-day Advents are in great shape because they're eating nuts, walnuts, and it's the omega 3 in there. So I did some checking and go, number one, it can't be, but what is it? It's 5-1 parent omega 6 to parent omega 3. Right. So they're big on non-adulterated stuff, but it's 5 times. Now, here's where it's in the organs. In the cell membrane, in a muscle, it's about 6.5-1 parent 6 to parent 3. In an organ like your heart or your kidneys or liver, it's about 4-1. In the skin, it's 1,000-1. In the brain, it's 100-1. Now, it's not all parent omega 6. In the brain, there is a lot of DHA, and there's also a lot of AA, which is a derivative of the omega 6 side. They're in this pretty close to the same amount. So we get highly misled. Well, you need all this DHA in the brain. You also need a lot of the AA in the brain, or it's not going to work. And what happens if you take an overdose of fish oil, it displaces the parent omega 6 and parent omega 3. A lot of people mistakenly think, oh, it just gets burned up. What's the big deal? No, it doesn't. Some of it can, the majority can't. It displaces the 6. And actually, I read a superb medical journal article, never saw it referenced anywhere. In the cardiolipin, the energy of your heart, down by 50% of the energy in the heart when they're overdosing on fish oil. And it said the parent omega 6 comes to the rescue, where if your mitochondria is down by 50%, it's not congenital heart disease, but what do they call it? Where the heart doesn't have enough energy to pump. There's a term. It just doesn't have the energy to pump.
Right.
And that's what they're giving people unknowingly. But these articles are in there. Also, there was an article in 2017 showing thermodynamically why if you didn't get the proper oils and you ate the adulterated ones. Now, parent omega 6 is adulterated, parent omega 3 isn't. Nobody cooks with parent omega 3. It's too reactive. If you fry with flax oil, it ruins immediately. So nobody does that. We're not getting enough of the parent omega 3, but we're getting too much of the adulterated parent omega 6. So there's a big difference there. You need at least 2 or 3-1 parent omega 6 to parent omega 3. The fat stores are about 20 to 1 parent omega 6 to parent omega 3. So when you average them all out or look at them all in the percentages of the organs and tissue, it's overall 11 to 1
And also, you made
omega 6.
anytime you were on, you made a really powerful statement. If you're on fish oils and you start your wonderful oils, it takes about 18 weeks to get the fish oils the heck out of your body.
Yes, it does. There was a brilliant study with radio isotopes. I think Dr. Lands did it back in 1990, and it showed how long it takes. So thank goodness it's only 18 weeks, 4.5 months. It's not 4.5 years.
Right. So how do we get it if you're not a physician? Well, Jennifer, it's available through our office, 1-800-272-2323. That's ICNR.com. So you can call our office, 800-272-2323, and we can, provide you the Easy Trek. In fact, we stock it because most of our patients come from out of state, and when they wind up on my doorstep, they're sick. So I want them to leave with the good stuff in their hand. So, low blood pressure.
It's an interesting question. Well, I'm not sure. I don't talk about what I don't know. I don't recall anybody ever asking that because it's relatively rare compared with the high blood pressure issue. I get that all the time. I'm not sure. What do you think's causing that, Doc? Is it the heart the ejection fraction's too low?
Well, I think they're like what they call parasympathetic dominant. Standard Process has a product called Cataplex B, which stimulates the sympathetic part of the nervous system, and it tones up the blood vessel, and it's physiologic. So it's not a drug. It's a food-based supplement, and that can help raise your blood pressure. There may be energy imbalances. So, for example, if you have cranial problems, that's parasympathetic. If you have pelvic problems, that's parasympathetic. So that can throw the balance between sympathetic, which is your gas pedal, and parasympathetic, your brakes, out of balance. So you may have a structural component, and you may be too alkaline. Sometimes people get too alkaline, and they can get too parasympathetic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could help that, but I can't.
Intractable epilepsy.
We have had. Is this extensive seizures?
Probably, but a lot of times
I find patients with extensive seizures, like 10 a day, going down to 1. So my answer would be, it is definitely going to help you. How much I can't say, but I would guarantee it will.
There's also, I found, toxicity in the brain which causes the epilepsy.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it could be glyphosate. It could be vaccines from childhood. It could be formaldehyde, the adjuvants, aluminum. It could be all kinds of, dioxins. I mean, I'm always looking for the splinter. What's causing the inflammation? What's causing the problem? And then once you define it and you remove it, the epilepsy. I had one young woman years ago that I rebalanced her cranium using orthodontics, and her petit mild seizures totally disappeared. So there's, multiple variable causes for epilepsy.
Very good.
What eye itching? That's usually toxicity. Anytime there's itching in the body, it's toxicity. So again, it could be multiple sources. Glyphosates in our rainwater, fluoride in toothpaste in the water. Unfortunately, the public water supply has dilute forms of all the medication that people are urinating out, and it's not being processed out of the water. So, and the chemical additives, the dyes, the preservatives. So twitching is what they call blepharism. It could be a lack of minerals, but a lot of times there's toxicity that's causing the nerves to twitch. Also, thyroid issues can cause muscle twitching and spasming. And so, again, you have to define what the underlying cause is.
Very good.
Do you cook with a good organic olive oil or eat it?
You can cook. You don't want to bring the temperature up too high, so you can saute. You don't want to do deep frying in it. Eating it raw, there's no reason to. I mean, if you have an olive oil dressing, but olive oil is mainly oleic acid, which is omega-9, which is a non-essential. You're getting virtually no EFAs with olive oil. Now, there's other stuff in there, so it's a good oil, especially if you're getting organic. It's good, it's fine, but it's not going to give you the EFAs or the PEOs that you need.
Yeah, my solution is real simple. Saute it in water and add the oils on afterwards. You can have pumpkin seed oil. You can have
Interesting.
yeah. So you'll get the full flavor and the nutritional value of the oils by
I like
putting
that.
it on afterwards.
Like
Yeah, yeah. They have these non-stick pans that are not Teflon that are healthier, and it works really well. I put your oils on my cat food.
Oh, the animals go nuts with this.
Their coat
That
gets
is
really nice and smooth.
phenomenal for them.
Yeah, yeah. And also, if your cat or dog is scratching a lot, itching, it's a
It'll be
lactose.
gone. It'll be
Yeah, so
gone.
yeah, little MSM powder in their food, then the itching stops.
Excellent.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've hit our hour mark, and
Enough for one day.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Brian, and I'm sure people will gravitate to your website because I know you have a lot of great scientific articles on
Yes.
there.
Won't
And
cost them a nickel.
yeah, and it's all free. And we offer the oils so you can purchase them through our office.
Excellent.
Yeah, and again, we'll have you on in the future. We want to maybe bring you on for a program with the diabetic stuff and the ulcers and all that craziness.
Absolutely.
So great.
A big problem. Thanks again.
Thank you so much,
Pleasure
and
to
thank
hear.
you for people waiting. So I had my vacation and I'm all rested. You can see I have my background is from Barbados. I changed my background.
I'm jealous.
So until next week, stay well and just remember, never ever trust a doctor who has dying plants in the reception room.
I won't.